Hello again, my fellow cool people. Today we have one story with a few updates, please enjoy. First story. Refusing to name our son after my wife's late brother. Am I the A? I'm writing here following a recommendation from a friend. This advice came after a substantial argument with my wife approximately 3 hours ago, which led me to leave our home and stay at a friend's house temporarily. I'm still here, unsure of how to handle things moving forward. To provide some background, I am a 28-year-old male, and my wife is 26. We have been together for a decade and married for 4 years. She is currently pregnant with our first child, a boy, due in early July. The issue at hand involves the naming of our son, which has become a significant point of contention between us. My wife wants to name our son after her deceased brother, T, who passed away a little over a year ago. T was her only sibling, and they were very close throughout their childhood, being only 2 years apart. However, T's life was fraught with challenges. He battled with drug addiction from around the ages of 14 to 15 and had a history of stealing from his family and others, including myself and my wife. He was also known to be abusive towards every one of his partners and his own child and had spent several years in prison. T was similarly abusive towards my wife and her parents. Due to his actions, including a break-in at our home during which he stole our TV, my wife's jewelry, and one of my hunting rifles, there was a restraining order placed against him, barring him from our home. Despite these issues, T's death from a drug overdose last April impacted my wife profoundly. It was her first major loss, and she continues to attend therapy to cope with the grief. When we learned we were expecting a boy, my wife immediately insisted on naming him after T, using both his first and middle names. I have strongly objected to this, offering alternative names from her family such as her father's or grandfather's, but she remains unyielding. She has even gone as far as ordering a baby blanket embroidered with T's name, which further escalated our disagreement. When I voiced my refusal to name our child after someone who had caused so much pain and suffering, it led to a massive argument, culminating in her screaming at me to leave and threatening to call the police. I left, stating that we should both calm down before discussing this further, though I apologized for speaking negatively about her brother. Since then, I have been bombarded with calls from her family accusing me of disrespect and refusing to honor T's memory, while my own family supports my stance. This has left me in a predicament, with friends and family divided on the issue. So, I ask you, Reddit, am I really the asshole for not wanting to name our child after someone with such a troubled past? Update. It's been a few months since my last post, and I've received a few messages prompting me to share an update, for which I apologize for the length in advance. If you recall from my initial post, my wife and I were expecting a baby boy in early July, and we were embroiled in a significant conflict over naming him after her late brother. The disagreement had escalated significantly, leading to hurtful words and threats being exchanged. About a week after my post, I had a deep and emotional conversation with my wife. She broke down and admitted that she was struggling far more with her brother's death than she had let on. She felt uncomfortable discussing her feelings with me, partly due to my clear disdain for how her brother had lived his life. This revelation was devastating. I realized I had been a terrible partner by failing to see past his misdeeds and support my wife through her grief. We cried a lot during this discussion, but it was a necessary catharsis for us both. We agreed to strive for greater openness and less judgment moving forward, and we started attending therapy together shortly thereafter. This has been incredibly beneficial for navigating the complexities of our relationship and addressing the underlying issues. After numerous therapy sessions and many lengthy discussions, we finally reached a compromise regarding our son's name. We decided on a first name that we both adored, and for the middle name, we used her brother's middle name but altered the spelling. This way, it felt like our child would have his own unique identity, which was a significant relief for both of us. Then, on July 3rd, we were in for the surprise of our lives. Our son turned out to be a daughter. We welcomed a beautiful, healthy baby girl weighing 8 pounds. We named her Eleanor Shea, a name we had not settled on until she was almost a week old. Life with Eleanor has been nothing short of amazing, and adjusting to parenthood has filled our lives with incredible joy and love. Thank you to everyone who shared advice and support during those challenging times. Second update. I find myself writing under less than happy circumstances, needing to vent my frustrations into the void that is the internet because I feel isolated in my real-life interactions. My wife is cheating on me. She's been having an affair for the past 2 months with a man she met on Facebook. Despite our seemingly perfect life, stable careers, financial security, no substance abuse issues, and ongoing therapy, she has chosen to step outside our marriage. The discovery came about by chance when my daughter's tablet battery died, and I handed her my wife's iPad to use. While she was watching videos, I kept hearing message notifications. Curiosity got the better of me, and I checked, only to find messages from a man I didn't recognize, complete with flirty emojis. Digging deeper, I found evidence of meetups, overnight stays, and dates, including plans for a romantic cruise next month, a trip my wife had described as a girls' outing. I encouraged her social outings, proud that she was becoming more active socially, as she often felt isolated since becoming a mother. But it turns out these were all lies. The friends she mentioned didn't even exist. She had created fictional characters to mask her ongoing relationship. I feel utterly betrayed and foolish for never doubting her, for trusting her completely. We've been together for 11 years, married for 6, and our wedding anniversary is just 3 months away. I've spent the last couple of days analyzing every detail of our relationship, trying to pinpoint when she became unhappy or what I might have done wrong. How could she jeopardize our family for a fling? The discovery has left me in a state of shock and disbelief. I can't discuss this with anyone in my personal life yet. I'm torn between confronting her now or waiting until she returns from her trip in 4 days. I'm dreading the conversation that will inevitably follow, knowing that our marriage, the life we built together, cannot be salvaged through therapy this time. I know myself well enough to realize that the trust once broken cannot be easily mended. In the coming days, I plan to gather all evidence and prepare myself for the inevitable legal and emotional battles ahead. I need to think about my daughter and how to protect her from the fallout. This is a painful time, and any advice or support would be greatly appreciated. Third update. About a month ago, I poured out my heart here, sharing the deep hurt of uncovering my wife's affair. The outpouring of advice and kind words from this community was overwhelming, and for that, I'm truly grateful. Your support has meant everything during this storm in my life, and I apologize to those who could personally relate to such pain. Today, I have some updates to share, though it's more an extension of my venting than anything else. My world has been turned upside down, and expressing these thoughts here helps me process them, even if it might come across as rambling. I apologize for the length in advance. Following the advice from this community, I meticulously gathered all evidence of the affair and sought out competent legal representation. I managed to find an excellent lawyer and immediately initiated the process for a divorce. Additionally, I underwent testing for sexually transmitted infections, STIs, as a precaution and shared this distressing situation with my parents and best friend, seeking their support and a place to find some solace. In preparation for the difficult conversation with my wife upon her return, I took our daughter to my parents' house. This gave me some space to mentally brace myself for the confrontation. Those last 2 days were spent in a frenzy of cleaning and emotional upheaval. I alternated between rage and profound sadness, packing up some of my wife's belongings only to unpack them again as I grappled with the reality of our crumbling marriage. I had planned a particular scene, laying out all the evidence of her betrayal alongside the divorce papers on our dining room table, waiting for her to see the full extent of what I knew. However, that moment never came as planned. Instead of arriving in the late afternoon as expected, she came home early at around 6:30 a.m., hoping to surprise me. There I was, already awake, nursing a coffee through my tears, when she walked through the door. I didn't offer a greeting. Instead, I retrieved the folders filled with undeniable proof of her infidelity and the divorce papers and handed them to her. I can scarcely remember the specifics of what was said. My only clear words were an acknowledgement of her betrayal, my desire for a divorce, and my intention to keep the house, which was solely in my name. The emotional intensity of that encounter was overwhelming. Despite my profound hurt and anger, part of me wanted to embrace her, yet the urge to scream was just as strong. Her reaction was a mix of tears and anger, and while I remained mostly silent, I suggested that any further discussions should involve our lawyers once she was ready to face the reality of our situation. This approach, sometimes referred to as gray walling, involved maintaining a stoic exterior and avoiding emotional engagement, a strategy one had read about in one of the comments on my previous post. It was excruciatingly difficult, possibly the hardest thing I've ever done. She left later that day, taking only some clothes and personal items, and moved in with her parents. Meanwhile, my support network, consisting of my parents and best friend, gathered around me and my daughter, offering the emotional and physical support we so desperately needed. The following Monday brought more devastating news. A call from my clinic confirmed that I had contracted HSV-2, a parting gift from her infidelity. The weight of this news is hard to describe. It's a common condition, yes. But knowing its origin did not ease the feelings of anger, sadness, and betrayal. I joined a support group on Facebook, which has been a helpful resource in coping with this new reality. With this heavy burden, I approached the subsequent legal discussions about our divorce. Our finances were separated, and as the house was in my name, it remained with me. The legal proceedings were straightforward except for one shocking development. She expressed a desire to terminate her parental rights to our daughter. This blindsided me completely. Our little girl, only a year old, adores her mother. Mama was even her first word. Understanding this decision is beyond me, and the emotional toll it's taking, not just on me but also on our daughter, is immense. We are now awaiting a court date to address her petition to terminate her parental rights, a process I dread. Facing her in court, knowing she no longer wishes to be a part of our daughter's life, feels like too much to bear. This entire ordeal has shattered the foundation of my life. It's hard to see a future when the present is so overwhelmingly painful. I'm doing everything I can to maintain a positive outlook for the sake of my daughter and my family, but the emotional, mental, and physical toll is enormous. I'm not in a place where I can see beyond the immediate fog of this storm. Yet, I hold on to a sliver of hope that one day I'll look back on this period of my life and say, I survived that. For now, though, survival itself feels like an insurmountable task. Final update. It's been about 8 months since I last posted about the upheaval in my life, and during this time, many of you have reached out with messages of concern and support. I cannot express enough gratitude for your kind words and apologies for not responding sooner. My life has been a whirlwind of change and challenges. To give you a brief recap of the more difficult parts, my divorce was finalized smoothly without any complications. However, selling our old house has been a slow process, and in the meantime, we've relocated to a new state. My ex-wife continues to seek termination of her parental rights, a process I've been reluctantly navigating. I've seen her only a handful of times, exclusively in court settings, and she has consistently refused any form of visitation with our daughter, who she hasn't seen in over 7 months. I've extended multiple invitations for her to connect with our daughter, either through video calls or visits, but she has declined each one. Her own parents, however, remain in touch through video calls, and we hope they can visit us this summer. Despite these challenges, I've come to accept the situation as it stands and wish her well in her future endeavors. On a brighter note, I'm excited to share some positive developments. My family and I have settled into life in Arizona, a place I never anticipated moving to but have grown to love. My parents joined us in the move and their happiness has been a joy to behold. My daughter, soon to be 2 years old, has been thriving in our new home. She's incredibly intelligent and curious, already knowing her ABCs and counting to 20 unaided. She has a deep love for animals and bugs, and her sense of humor, finding amusement in the simplest things like farts and cow moos, continues to surprise and delight me daily. Her resilience and personality have been my greatest motivators to heal and better myself after everything that's happened. Personally, I have been in therapy throughout these past 8 months, which has greatly improved my mental health. While I've gained some weight due to the stress of the past year, I'm slowly working on getting back into shape without putting too much pressure on myself. I haven't ventured back into dating and don't plan to for a while as I focus on my role as a single parent, which has been made easier thanks to the immense support from my friends and family. Despite the occasional tough moments, which I know will continue to arise, I'm committed to rolling with the punches and striving to come out stronger. I've learned that this is not the end of the world, no matter how daunting it feels at times. A simple mantra from my therapist has stuck with me: the sun will rise tomorrow, birds will chirp, and all will be well. This perspective has been invaluable. Once again, thank you to everyone who reached out during one of the most challenging periods of my life. Your support has been indispensable. For those who took the time to read this, your empathy and kindness have made a significant difference, and for that, I am profoundly grateful.